Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of the Bukkit Coding Packet series. In this episode, we are going to take a look at how to create NPCs. NPCs, or non-player characters, in the context of Minecraft, are essentially players that show up in the game, but they're not actually controlled by a human. They're really useful, for example, if you want to show your staff members on your server and you have a room, you can actually put NPCs of your staff members, so it will look like they're actual people with the skin and the display name, but it will really just be a dummy player that won't do anything. There are other things that you can do with it. You could set up a listener system so that if you go near an NPC or if you click an NPC, that it would talk to you. If you work with pathfinding, you can make the NPC follow you. There are all kinds of different things that you can do with NPCs, and they're really cool. But we're just going to look at how to spawn them using packets. I'm not going to go through the trouble of doing this with reflection because it's going to take at least 4 times as long if I were to write everything out with reflection. But in episode 5, which I believe was the episode before this, you can look at how to convert. I think we converted the title plugin over to use reflection. So you can follow the same ideas that you see in there to convert this one over to use reflection if you want. Okay, so essentially, it's actually pretty easy to create an NPC. There are 2 parts. The first is actually creating the NPC, and then the second is sending the packets to the players when they join, so that they understand that the NPC is actually there. So what we're going to do with this plugin is we're going to have the onEnable, and we're going to create one NPC in onEnable. Then we're going to have a player join event so that when the player joins, we send them the data about the NPC, and we're just going to have it teleport the NPC to the player. So there will be one NPC, and every time a player joins, it'll relocate or it'll teleport to where that player was. Not terribly useful, but it will easily let us demonstrate the fact that the NPC exists because it'll spawn right where we do. In the future, or if you were using this with an actual plugin, you probably have an array list or an array of NPCs, and you'd create them maybe through a command, or you'd store the locations in a configuration file. But this is just to demonstrate that you can spawn NPCs and just to show that it actually does work. Okay, so first thing first is we're going to have an instance variable, which is the NPC, because we have the onEnable and we're going to write the onPlayerJoin method. So we need to be able to share this between them. So I'm going to write private, and the name of the class is EntityPlayer, and we'll call this NPC. If you wanted to have more than one, you'd probably use an array list of type NPC, or sorry, of type entity player, and you could store all of them in there, but we just have one. You'll notice that this is an NMS class, so you would want to use reflection here. You'd want to make this an object, and then use reflection to instantiate it as an NPC player, or an entity player type. Okay, so in the onEnable, we're going to create the NPC, and then in the onPlayerJoin, we're going to teleport it and then send over any information that the player needs to know that it exists. So first, we're going to take a look for a second. So we're going to set NPC equal to a new entity player, and let's first import it, or we already did, sorry. So now let's take a look at the constructor. So the constructor, a Minecraft server, a world server, a game profile, and a player interact manager. Those are the 4 pieces of data that we need to give it. And then all of this other information it can figure out through there. So let's go through and see how we do this. Oh, by the way, I think I was asked how I do this. I have a plugin installed called the Eclipse. I think it's the JAD decompiler, and you just download it. Like I downloaded it and stuck it right there, this JAD file, and then you install the plugin, which is here, JAD clips, and then you just set the path to the decompiler, and then you can just hit command and click on a class name, and it'll show it to you all decompiled and nice. So that's the answer to that question, if anyone is curious as to how I keep doing that. Okay, back to the actual work. So, yeah, we'll keep this open so we can take a look. All right, we're going to use a couple of lines here. You could do this all in one line, but it would be a pretty long line. So let's just make it a little bit neater. So first we're going to figure out the server. And the way that you do this, it's actually very easy, is you write craft server bucket.getServer. So we cast bucket.getServer to a craft server and import. And then we just call .getServer. And you'll notice that, so first this part casts it to a craft server, and then we have a getServer method that returns a Minecraft server. And that is the class type that we want to have there. So that's how we access the server. Now we need the world server. We'll call this world. And this is going to be craft world bucket.getServer.getWorld, where we'll do get worlds.getZero. This will just return the overworld, the default world. If you were doing something with the configuration file, you'd want to save the name of the world or the number of the world so that you could load it in correctly. But in this case, we're just doing the first one. And then we want to first do the cast, and then after that, we write .getHandle. You'll notice that that returns a world server, which is the type that we want to have. So those are the two sort of long lines of code there. So the first things we can pass in are server and world. That satisfies that. Minecraft server and world server. Next is the game profile. So we're going to actually instantiate the game profile. Let's import it. That's going to be com.mojang.authlibrary.gameprofile. And this is the part where the Minecraft server communicates with Mojang server to get information about the user. Let's take a look here. We've got two parts, the UUID, the unique identifier, and the name. So the first part for the UUID, this is important. Right now we're just going to write UUID random UUID, and we're going to come back to that a little bit later. And you'll notice that UUID is just a built-in java.util class, so no issue there. Then the name is going to be whatever name you want to show up. So we'll just write NPC, or we'll write NPC for now. So that's it, just UUID and name. And then the last part that we need is the player interact manager. This is another NMS class, as you can see. And the constructor simply takes a world. And we can give it our world server, since world server extends from Minecraft world, and that's exactly what it wants. So that is how you instantiate the NPC class, or the entity player class. So now we have our NPC variable equal to this entity. So now we can actually move it around when the player joins. Okay, so we're going to write the player join event. Okay, there are two parts, or two things that we need to do here. The first one is we want to teleport the NPC to where the player is. Normally, you probably wouldn't want to do this, but I just want to be able to demonstrate that the plugin works. So I'm going to do it simply for this reason. Normally, you would want to do it right here after you create the NPC. You'd want to teleport it to where it belongs. But in this case, we want to actually teleport it. So if we do NPC dot, you'll see that right here we have a teleport to function. And our method, sorry. And I want to make sure that the location is compatible. I don't know if it's going to be that simple, but we'll see. Okay, it will be. So the first part is the location, and I believe that this should work. If not, then there's another thing that we can do. And Boolean portal, this is false because it's not a portal. Okay, the other thing that we need to do, and we're going to come back to that if we need to, but hopefully that'll work, is we need to actually tell the player that the NPC exists, because we have this NPC here and we could just teleport it to the location, but the player who joins is not going to actually see it. They're not going to know that the NPC exists. It's just not going to exist. So we need to send 2 packets in order to alert the player that they exist. Now remember, this NPC is an entity player. For all intents and purposes, your Minecraft client believes that there's actually another player connected to the server. And if you look in your tab list, and which I'll show you, you'll see the NPC show up in the tab list as another player. So that is an important thing to remember. We need to essentially trick the client into thinking that another player has joined in order for this to work. So since we're going to be sending 2 packets, we're going to just get an instance of the player connection and then call it twice. You could just, write the same long line out, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. So we need to get the player connection. So we need to cast e.getPlayer to a craft player. Then we need to get our handle. Notice that getHandle returns an entity player, which is the same type as the NPC. So again, the NPC is being treated like it's a real player. Then we need to get the player connection, and or that's it. So we're going to be sending 2 packets, so we can simply write connection.sendPacket twice instead of having to write this whole thing .sendPacket, just for neatness sake. But the 2 packets we're going to be sending are going to be the packet playout player info, and this is in charge of sending player information. And there are 2 pieces of data that this will need. Right here, the enum player info action and the entity player. So we are going to, of course, look in the enum player info action dot, and we clearly want to add a new player. This is a new player that we have, and we want to add them there. And then NPC is going to be the player in question. So we're just telling the client to add another player. This packet is sent automatically by the server when another player joins, so that everyone else knows that they exist. And the other packet that we're going to send is the packet playout named entity spawn with NPC. So the first one gives information. This one gives information about the player. It says, we're adding a new player called NPC. And then this one will say that the player just spawned. And as far as I'm concerned, that would be sent every time the player respawns. And it sends the only information that we need is the entity player, which in this case is NPC. Before we test this, there's one quick thing to note, is that if you look inside of NPC, we have access to all of these different things. You'll notice that, again, it functions just like another player. Once we get up to this point with the getHandle, we have the same thing. Like, we have a player connection. We could send a packet to the NPC. Not that it would do anything, but you could. And I believe that there are some inventory stuff. Yeah, look at this. There's you can get access to the player's inventory, so you could actually modify the inventory, and the important thing would be you can give them armor. There's the armor. Or you could set the item in their hand. So if you want them to be holding a particular item or wearing a particular suit of armor, then you can do that. So anything that you can do to a regular player, you can do to an NPC. I believe you could set them on fire if you wanted to, and there are all kinds of different things that you could do. So that is something important to note, that this NPC system is very powerful, not only in that you can do a lot with the NPCs themselves, but also with this whole packet thing, you could make per player NPCs. If you wanted to make an NPC that follows a player around, you could make it invisible to other players, and so invisible that the NPC doesn't exist to other players. If you don't send these packets, the client doesn't know that there's another NPC connected. So you could give every player their own NPC, and they won't even know that anyone else has one. They won't know that any of them exist. So there's a lot of possibilities with this. It's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and export this and give it a try and see what happens. Alright, so I got that exported. I'm going to start up my server, and then I'm going to start up my client. And, alright, got both things starting up. Alright, that was quick. No errors on start. And let's get the client working. I'm going to put that over there, and I'm going to put this over here. Okay, so let's connect to our server and see what happens. Oh, lost my cursor. Where did my cursor go? My cursor's gone. That's not good. Okay, let's just set the time to 0. And, oh, take a look right there. There is our NPC right there. His name is NPC, as we said. And you'll notice that he has the Steve skin. And he just kind of sits there. Doesn't really do anything much. Yeah. Now, you could write other things, like if you want his head to follow you so that he's looking at you. I believe you would have to do that through a listener, that, you know, it would look for the closest player and then set the head rotation to be looking at the player. But as you can see, he's in there, right there. Looks like a regular old player. And if I look at the tab bar, you'll notice that there he is, NPC with the Steve skin, right in that bar. So as far as my Minecraft server, or sorry, as far as my Minecraft client is concerned, there are 2 players on this server right now. Now, I don't believe, I gotta get my cursor back, so you'll see that the server's not reporting that there's 2 players online, because remember, this isn't a real player. But as soon as I join the server, you know, well, it's already created, it's teleported to me, and it appears to me as though there's another player, as you can see. Now, perhaps the most important thing is the ability to change the skin. The NPCs would be pretty boring if they were only Steve. We know how to change the name up at the top, and unfortunately changing the name at the top doesn't automatically change the skin. I tried that. I tried setting the name to PogoStick29, and it did not actually change the skin. It was still Steve, or I think it was the other skin, the other default skin. But we're going to actually take a look at how to do that. I really don't know why my mouse is missing, but I might need to restart Minecraft. There we go. It's gone. Okay, it's back. So the important thing about that, first of all, we're going to make it spawn an NPC of Notch, because why not? So I'm going to set the name to be Notch, because I want the name on top to be that. And you'll know that the name on top does not affect the skin. So you could have a Notch skin and whatever name you want above it. So that's another interesting thing. You can sort of label the NPCs. Like you could label one Shopkeeper and give it a skin of a shopkeeper with whatever username that corresponds with. So here's Notch, and the issue, or the way to fix it, is with the UUID. So right now we're assigning a random UUID, but what we can do is figure out what Notch's UUID is, and then it will automatically get his skin. So here is just one of many websites, mcuuid.net. Put the link down in the description. Simply type in a username, so we'll do Notch. And that looks like, I just want to make sure that that's not, yeah, okay, so it doesn't actually display the skin there, but you'll see here's his UUID. So we want to click on that and it'll copy it for us. And here in UUID, we want to write UUID.FromString, and then we want, come on, Eclipse. And we just want to paste that in there. I don't know what Eclipse is doing. Oh, it didn't copy it correctly. Oh boy. Okay, it like duplicated this code. Alright, so let's copy it manually. Okay, there we go. So we use UUID.FromString, and then you just type in the UUID. If I wanted to do this for me, I would just type, again, PogoStick29 in there, and there's my UUID. I can copy it, and I'm good to go. So let's export this. Now the NPC that's created will have a name of Notch, and it will also have Notch's skin. Let's reload, and we got an error. Why is that? Oh, that's not, I don't think that has anything to do with our plugin, but let's just try starting it up again. So now it will have Notch's skin and the name of Notch, and for bonus points, it'll actually show up as Notch in the tab bar. So you can trick your players into thinking that Notch or other celebrities are on your server, and if you put some work into a plugin that makes them actually act real, then that could be pretty convincing. So let's just take a look and see if this works. There's Notch, and he doesn't have his skin. Did I mess something up? Alright, let's try it for me, because I know that it works for me. I tried it earlier. So I'm going to stick my name in there, and I'm going to also stick my username up at the top, and we'll give this another try. I don't know why that's giving me an error now, but it's fine. Start and stop, it's fine. Okay, give this a couple seconds to start back up. Yeah, there we go. That's good. So, I don't know what was up with Notch before, but as you can clearly see, there is PogoStick29. There's his skin. His head is actually backwards, which is a little bit gross because the P is supposed to be on the front, as you can see there. So, yeah, you would probably want to fix his head up a little bit. But otherwise, not too bad. There I am with my correct skin and my correct name, and I look pretty realistic. One thing that you'll notice is that there's only one PogoStick29 up there, because we both have the same username and the same UUID. I believe it would probably be the UUID, or it could be the username. One of the two, or both, is causing only one name to show up, although that does make perfect sense, simply because there is only one of me. They're both, the same. So that is how you create NPCs, or non-player characters. That is just spawning them, but now it's up to you to adapt the spawning. You can create the NPCs, so now do stuff with them. Give them armor, make them move around, make them look around, make them do different things. There's lots of stuff that you can do with NPCs, and they are super cool. So, as always, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment with what you want to learn and what other packet concepts are left that I should cover in this series before I finish it up. And if you like this video, click the like button. I will see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.